Anyhow, welcome back again, guys, to the One Great I Am Awakening. This week we have for you, um, we're going to talk about the superconscious mind. Last week we spoke about the three minds, the conscious, subconscious, and the superconscious. Um, and we just talked about their relationship with each other. All those three minds are within all of us, but we are unaware that they exist other than our conscious mind. Conscious mind is just basically being aware of your present. It gives you the present awareness. It lets you know what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're thinking, um, where you are, what you are, who you are, all these different things. You're conscious, you are awake, um, but you are unconscious of your other minds that technically runs your life. So, so last week we discussed the superconscious, subconscious, and the conscious. Um, it spells out, as we've termed, God, God, superconscious being the generator, the subconscious being the operator, and the conscious being the destroyer, the part of you that, dissect, reject, accepts, designs, deducts, um, you know, from the many different desires that you have, and you just narrow down that one or specific one that you desire to experience right now. So that is the purpose of the conscious mind, is to focus on the thing that you have narrowed down um, your decision to, and to bring that about. Okay. And so that's what the purpose of your conscious mind is. But in order to bring that thing that you have narrowed down to, it requires a higher intelligence in order for that to happen. Okay. Some of us call this higher intelligence God, or Jehovah, or infinite intelligence, the universe, the multiverse, um, the all-seeing eye. What else? What else? Um, in other terms, you may have it. They call it Shiva, or they may even call it the ether. All these different names. You know, that they've given it. The unified field, all these different stuff. But this is basically an awareness, and it is the only and one awareness that exists, or that is. The other parts of it that we have come to know, the subconscious and the super and the conscious mind, are just levels of this one great mind in which it operates. Okay. So again, the only mind that exists is the universal mind, or the, in today's discussion, the superconscious mind. They're one and the same, universal, um, or collective. That's another term they use, collective mind. But it's one universal mind that has divided itself into three aspects. Okay. One being itself first, which is always awareness, just total awareness of all things, collective awareness of any information, any knowledge, anything. All this stuff resides within the superconscious, and the the division of itself became subdivisions. One of them being the subconscious. That is the mind or aspect of itself that operates the knowledge. Okay, it operates the knowledge of the all-knowing mind. All right, it's like a secretary of the company. The company is the superconscious, the knowledge bank, the entire program with all the information that it provides to the that it outsources to everyone that uses the company. But it has someone operating behind the scenes all this information. All right, and that operator is the subconscious. So notice it says sub, so it is a subdivision, a subcompartment, a compartment of the whole, um, personalized and put, to do a specific job. Okay, um, and it is also all knowing in the sense that it is tapped into the source itself. So everything that the superconscious knows, the subconscious also knows, but it operates what it knows. It's like I've always used this terminology. It's like the electrical operation or the operation of electricity. You have the plant, which is in this case the superconscious, the whole, the all that there is, and then it subdivides everything out. It subtracts, it contracts everything out um, through different lines, different conduits from itself. These conduits or subdivisions would be the operator of the electricity. It operates the whole and break it down into a subdivision of itself, a smaller version of itself, and takes it to the communities. And then it comes into the house where this part of the house now becomes the conscious part of all of the electrical program. This plant has narrowed itself down to this one version of itself, a house. Okay, and within the house, this is where you're conscious of what the electricity can do. At the plant, the electricity just is. It's it's just pure electricity, pure power, but it cannot do anything as is. Plug anything into it, it's not going to work. Nothing is able to use that power as it is. So when you divide the power into a smaller version of itself, now you're able to bring it down to a level wherein it can be used. It can become conscious of being a television, of being a refrigerator, of being a microwave, um, down to something as minute as a cell phone. It charges a cell phone. It does all these different things that the whole or the all cannot do as constructed. But it has the power to do it, but it has to level down, not level up. So it breaks itself down into these compartments, as you can see, from the plant to the streets, the conduits to the house. That is the three levels that even in our personal lives, we see examples of that, whether it be water as well, from the water plant breaking down into the smaller versions of smaller pipes, and it comes into the house into smaller pipes again, which is the conscious part where you get to use it. So the conscious part of consciousness is the usage, is the ability to use the consciousness, and have an experience, with the consciousness, or the consciousness, as we've come to know, experiencing itself. Okay? It had to become a different version of itself, a conduit, an instrument, and that is us, the flesh, the animals, the all the species, insects, you name it. All these things are just conscious versions of the superconscious. Okay. So I hope that made sense, and you can see the correlation between just pure awareness and the subconscious um, part of awareness, and then the conscious mind, which is the limited, limited version, you know, of the whole. And it has to operate like that. Without the conscious mind, there can be no experience. Zero. Okay? Without the conscious mind, you cannot experience consciousness. All right? It's not possible. And the consciousness, awareness itself knows this. And this is why the levels in which it operates are in these three levels, from the whole to the subconscious to the conscious. All right? And it goes back and forth. The conscious mind communicates the desire it has at the particular moment. The subconscious mind records that, takes it to the whole, and from the whole, it gives the subconscious the instructions, the ways, the means as to, it gives you the ways, the means as how to, it gives the subconscious the ways and means, the how to, the navigation on how to carry out the desire of the conscious mind. That said, today we're just going to look at a video. Um, I might play two of them, I'm not sure, but we have a video of Brian Tracy just basically explaining how to have total access to the superconscious mind, and pretty much as to why that is. And then I'll come back and give a somewhat testimony myself as to the validity of that um, activation and stuff like that. So let's find this video. We have one right here. And this one right here says the superconscious mind, how to access it. All right. That guy talks about that. But here's the one with Brian Tracy. Very short. Let's take a listen to this and come right back.
How do you activate the superconscious mind? Here is the most powerful of all. We call this the master method of activation. It is called solitude. You activate the superconscious mind with solitude. Now, how do you use solitude? We call this go into the silence. Go and sit down quietly by yourself for 30 to 60 minutes. 30 to 60 minutes. Most people in our society have never sat quietly for 30 to 60 minutes in their entire lives. Yet I will tell you this method works 100% of the time. That any problem that you have, any difficulty, any challenge, any goal that you want to accomplish, if you'll go into the silence and sit quietly and then listen to the still small voice within, this is the key. You will find that at a certain point, probably at about 25 to 30 minutes, your mind will go completely clear. And then a flow of ideas will start to flow into your mind. You'll feel energy welling up inside you. And at a precise moment, as you sit there in complete silence, no cigarettes, no coffee, no music, nothing, just complete silence, at a particular moment, your mind will go clear and wham, exactly the answer you need will come at exactly the right time. And if you will get up and go and carry out that answer, it will turn out to be exactly perfect.
How did great minds like Da Vinci, Thomas Edison...
All right, so let's pause on this lady real quickly, and we can come back and take a listen to her real quickly as well. It's a short video as well, but let's see. Let's stop sharing there. Let's go into what Brian Tracy just said. So Brian Tracy said that this is the, there are other ways, but this is the best way to access the superconscious. Okay. And as I said, the solitude. Okay. Um, Solitude, we all don't really get to do a lot of that any at all because we're so busy with our lives, with the running of our lives. So there's no really, which is interesting, there's no real moment in our lives where we get to practice solitude, um, as simple as it may seem or sound. Because you're home, you got stuff to do around the house, and by the time you finish, it's time to go to your bed. Get up in the morning, ain't no time for solitude. It's time to get to work. So it is something that you have to make time for. And interestingly, we almost have no time for solitude, which is remarkable and crazy. No time for it. It's a simple exercise, but somehow it seems a bit difficult to do because of time. And you heard Brian Tracy said right there that you need about 30 minutes to an hour to practice um, this method of accessing the superconscious mind. And what is the purpose to access the superconscious mind? The purpose here is to get out of your own way, so to speak. And that is to get out of thoughts, get away from thoughts, get away from the conscious mind. The conscious mind is the mind that does not sleep until your body rests. And once your body starts to rest, the body, the conscious mind starts to shut down and you go to sleep. No, that's interesting because that's what you're doing when it's time to when you're trying to access the superconscious mind. You are shutting down the body. The only problem is you are in an awakened state. You are awake. So it's hard for your conscious mind to shut down when the body is awake, like alert. You're doing something on purpose to access the superconscious. When it's time to go to sleep, you just go and lay down. And after a while, even when you're there thinking, 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 you don't even know when you fall asleep. That's because you slowly, gradually start to lose consciousness of your thoughts or whatever you were thinking about. And you just find yourself wake up hours later or the next day, don't even know when you fell asleep. So that part is somewhat easy because that is just how your body normally works. You spend 1/3 of your day sleeping, 2/3 you're up, you know. So um so that part is generally a normalcy. It's a rotation. Now going into the exercise we're talking about here, this is something that you have to purposely do and do it in an awakened state. And that is the challenge, to find the time when you know you have, like I said, things to do. The house is low. You got the kids, or maybe even no kids. Even if you're by yourself, you might still find it hard to enter into that state because you have obligations and whatnot. So this is something that you have to make a practice, and almost to a point where it now becomes part of your routine or your daily routine. I think Joe Dispenza, I heard, spends about 2 hours into solitude. Not sure if it's true, 100%, but 2 hours, that's a lot of time out of your day. You understand? So, um, but because he may have more time on his hands than the average person, In some cases, it's probably not even true, but it's just something that he has become accustomed to. His subconscious is now running that part of his life. It's something that he has now made peace with, and it's just part of his um daily routine, his reputation, and it's just something that he does, just like getting up in the morning to brush your teeth, take a shower, eat, and all that type of stuff. So it's getting it there, which will become a subconscious part of our lives. So, but we're just talking about initiating or just becoming aware of such a practice by solitude. You always hear people talk about solitude, but never really indulge in it. But the purpose of it is to be in an awakened state as you're doing it, and it's almost a hypnosis. It's a self-hypnosis in a way. I think we want to do a topic on that too. It's a self-hypnosis in where you become still, quiet, preferably in a dark room. It really shouldn't be any light because you want to put the body in what they call a hypnagogic state, which is hypno means sleep. It's just a word for a Greek word that means sleep. Okay? So you're putting yourself in a sleep state, hypnagogic state, but you're still awake. You're not sleeping. You might be sleepy, but you're not sleeping. But you're shutting down the senses. You're not seeing anything. You're not smelling, tasting, touching, or even hearing anything. It's just pure silence. And Neville always says this when he's done with his meetings. Let us go into the silence. And I think that's what Neville is alluding to. So that after you've heard the message, after you've, read something or wrote, as we've been doing with the left hand thing, wrote affirmations and whatnot, you then go into the silence. Why? Because the affirmations that you just wrote or the lessons that you just learned, what we're doing now is turning it over to the superconscious to give us back the how to, the way in which it's going to happen. Because as you're writing these things, you do not know how they're going to happen because you're in a conscious state. The conscious mind does not know anything in terms of how to do anything. It just knows information, it just knows what it wants. It's the mind of knowledge. It's not the mind of wisdom or the mind of doing anything. Okay? But it has its purpose. Without this mind, nothing gets done, nothing gets desired. Okay? So everything works seamlessly as it's supposed to. We're just finding out how to do it in the right way, the right order, than being frustrated. Now we know, okay, the conscious mind desires, the subconscious mind operates, takes the information and bring it to the source that knows all things. And then the source say, this is how it is done. The subconscious takes it back and find the people, the place, the circumstances, the events, the ways, the means in which it's going to happen. And you will be consciously playing your part in the development of this outcome that you're expecting or desiring. All right. So, but in this state of solace or solitude, you want to do it long enough wherein the thought starts to dissipate, they start to digress, they start to regress, they start to go to sleep, so to speak, because energy flows um, where attention goes. So if you attend to your thoughts, they're going to get the energy and they stay awake. But if you take away your energy, than the thoughts, which is you consciously keeping them alive. You're the one keeping your thoughts alive, giving them a voice, so to speak. But the longer you just stay there and quiet the mind, the conscious mind, it starts to fall asleep, as if when you're going to sleep, when you're going to your bed. But because you are in an awakened state, your body doesn't go to sleep, your mind goes to sleep, but you have now become what Joe Dispenza called a nobody. He has a I think I posted several times. I have to relocate these videos, but he says becoming a nobody. And it sounds weird because he's not talking about becoming um what you would say worthless or non-productive or unproductive. It's being a no consciousness, shutting down your consciousness because the conscious mind is what controls the body in terms of giving it awareness, okay? Alertness or having it to do things, okay? But becoming a nobody, and then when you become a nobody, you become zero. Sir T alluded to that last week, where you shut down the the conscious mind and you become zero. You become solely the source where all things come from. Okay. And we're talking about the superconscious here. So now you have zeroed down yourself. You have gone completely to nothing. And from nothing is where all things come. So until you become nothing, you will not become something. Okay? Until you become a nobody, you will not become a somebody. That makes sense? You know? Until you stop thinking and just start tapping into your higher self. That's another name for the superconscious mind is your higher self. When you tap into your higher self, okay? The knowledge bank, the all-knowing essence of you. When you quiet this part of you down, you tap into it. He says about 25 minutes or so in, um, what will happen is everything will completely go blank. You will have no thoughts, pure silence, pure bliss. You have now become the superconscious. You have now become what they call the observer. You are just now observing without interference. You're not being anything. You're not thinking of anything. You're not being anything. You're just the observer. Okay? You're not observing your thoughts. You're not observing or thinking about anything. You're just there. But prior to you going into the exercise, you had uploaded, so to speak, your desire, your ideology. But you do not know how it is going to pan out, how it is going to work out. And you are aware of that, and you have zero problem with that. You're now in a state where we're no longer worried about, anxious about how something is going to work out because we now know how our minds work. We know that. We know how consciousness work. So we're no longer programming our subconscious to create states of chaos or worriedness or lack. We have now reprogrammed the subconscious to only give us states of awareness, states of bliss, states of solitude, where we are no more reserved, we're quiet, we are very patient, And the sooner we become patient about something that we are doing or desiring or um, intend to experience, the sooner we activate or indulge in this solitude or quiet state, is the sooner we're going to activate the know-how, the means, and the ways of how these things are going to come alive, you know? So we are reprogramming our subconscious mind, but with these exercises. After a while, the subconscious is going to realize that this is the new you. This is how operate. You no longer um, ask how something's going to happen. You only ask for something you desire to happen, but you never ask how. You don't ask if, when, or where it is going to happen. You just ask. As scripture say, ask and it shall be given, seek and you shall find. Okay? We're seeking our higher self. Once you seek your higher self, you will find the answer. You will find the know-how, the know-how. And so as you're there, this is how the light bulb moment, as they say, will come. You know, something will just pop up out of nowhere because you've gone into the nobody, into the no thought, into the zero self, the all that there is, the quietness. Okay, you've gone there, and because you've now quiet the mind, the idea that you had uploaded first before going into the silence, as Never would say, the know-how, the way, the means, the wisdom of it just pops up. It can pop up either by a thought. If that doesn't happen, if all you did was quiet the mind, go into the silence, and I believe in most cases, from my experience, anyhow, I didn't get what I'm calling now, a light bulb moment, so to speak. And I'm talking about when, and I'm looking at the chair even right now, I remember sitting down there that night. This was 11 years or so, 12 years, well, not 12 years, 11 years. Yeah, 11 years unchanged ago. And I was not practicing what I'm talking about here, like, deliberate. But I just remember that I was thinking to myself, I have to change something about my life, in terms of my income and how I was doing it and going forward. I had decided to start a business, to open up a barbershop. All right. But wasn't really doing anything to work on it. So I remember sitting down and I was in the dark, in the silence by myself. And I was there for a long time. I don't remember exactly how long it was, but it was over an hour. And I was just sitting there and thinking, and all these thoughts flowing. And then I just remember just sitting there, it's all quiet, peaceful, no sound, nobody around. And when I came out of it, I didn't have any light bulb moment, any answers, nothing came like that. But I just remember it was either that week or the next. Friend of mine called me, and he already had several barbershops, and he said he wanted me to he was gonna start a new barbershop, and he wanted me to run it for him. So we were going to partner up. Good friend of mine. And he's also, of this mindset that we are of and stuff like that, right? So, but he doesn't really practice it as at that set in that sense. But he's a business guy and whatnot. So anyhow, we started moving around, looking at places, and going to several places or whatever. And we were doing the exercise, you know, going to one place, going to another place, see what's available. But he had narrowed down two spots that they were for sale. So he was trying to get something that was already up and running and just take it over and move in or whatever. Anyhow, after a while, I didn't hear from him for probably about maybe a month or so. Couldn't get a hold of him. So I kept up doing what I was doing, what we were doing. I never stopped. I I went, I think the first place we went to was the same place I kept going to because no, because I was aware of what Neville taught and stuff like that. I was revisiting the same place over and over and over to program my subconscious mind. Okay? So I was just doing the Neville exercise. I assumed, and I had joined a barbershop 4 years before. Yeah, at that time it was 2014. So I drew the barbershop in 2010. I had completely forgot that I even did that. But all of this stuff was now activating and I was doing the work. So what was happening was the the meditation that I had went into was playing its part, was accessing how this is going to happen, how that's going to happen. And I was just going along with it. But when my friend disappeared, I didn't stop because by that time I realized that this is my moment. Because if I had stopped, it would have never transpired, would never happened. So I realized it was my moment to keep on going. I still did not know how it was going to happen because remember, he was my plug, so to speak, because he already had, I think, three barbershops going. So I wasn't going to do anything necessarily. It was going to be just his already established business ethics and ideas and all this type of stuff. So I was just going to plug myself into whatever he was doing. But when he left, I was now on my own and I had no know-how, money, all these different things is not there. You understand? I had no plan to spend anything necessarily, given the idea of how it was going to happen had we kept the um working together. But when he disappeared, I was on my own now. And so I kept on going to the same place every day. And I had heard prior to him even leaving that the place was already rented. But I did not make that my problem. I kept on going anyways. And as I kept on going, I realized that the people were actually moving in. The place was rented. So what did I do? Kept on going to the same place anyhow, even though it was already rented, because I knew that my subconscious was going to find the place. Um, I didn't know where it was going to be, when or how, but I knew it would. But I had to keep on doing what I was doing. And as I kept on doing that, I went to some other places and looked at them, look at their prices, their this and that and the third or whatever. But that aside, I kept going to this one place over and over. And it so happened that that one place is just around the corner from my barbershop where I'm at now. Just around the corner, like maybe 10 minutes walking distance, 30-second driving. It's like that close, right around the corner from the barbershop. Okay. And so the whole time I was doing this, I was in the vicinity in the area and didn't even realize it, where I was going to finally end up. And I It so happened that one day I was going to the gym, had no intentions to go to the place that I normally go to. I was just going to the gym. I had just dropped my wife to work like I normally do, but every time I do that, I'm always looking around at places. So I'm programming my subconscious to look out, go into search, go and research how I'm going to get into some place, somewhere. Okay. But I would always focus on wherever I'm driving, just looking at places, processing everything. All right. And so this one day I'm driving, I'm going to the bar to the gym, didn't intend to go the direction I went. The direction I would go, I would turn left, but that light was red, but the light to go straight was green. Either direction takes me to the same place. So I decided to just go straight, which I don't normally do. And as I went straight and then to turn left on another street to go to the gym, as I turned left, I looked over to my left. No, I'm driving and something say, turn left right here. So that is the voice inside, you know, that Brian Tracy talks about when you're in the silence. That voice speaks to you. Okay. So as I was driving, it says turn left right here. And I turn left. And as I'm driving into the parking lot, I see one, two, three. I see the third door. It says available on the door. They had like a big old sign that says available for rent. And I parked right there and got out my car. And as I touched the building, which I was doing with the other building, because I was doing all the stuff never said to do, to use your five senses. Hear, see, smell, taste, and touch, or whatever I could actuate, especially my sight and hearing and touching, especially touching never teaches. When you touch something, nothing is truer than touch. You can hear something, but it might be deceiving. It might not be as close as you think it is. It could be far. You see something, it might be an illusion of the sense of the mind. It might not be um, something that is good for you, whatever the case may be. But when you touch something, you are very conscious that you are touching something. Nothing can fool you. You are touching it, And I would always touch the window when I went to that building. So when I went to this building, I did the same thing. I laid my hand on the window and I felt like an electricity went to my body. And I said to myself, this is it. Not knowing the price and anything like that, not knowing what they were going to charge. Everywhere else I went, there were some ridiculous prices. But I had never stopped in this plaza all that time I was in my search. Never stopped there. I drive by it every day because when I'm leaving the gym, I drive that direction. When I'm going to the gym, I drive the back way. So I would never drive by that plaza. I would only drive past it as I'm going home. So my back is turned to it. I'm not even paying it no mind, right? And the place that I went to, I knew that plaza, that particular building or suite was already a salon. I knew it was a salon. So in that way, because I knew it was a salon, I just had no intentions of going over there because I assumed everything was taken because I knew the salon existed. I did not know that they had closed or when they had closed. But as I was driving that day to the gym, that's where my subconscious mind took me. The subconscious was working with the superconscious, and it took me right to the spot that I had never even been to. Not one day I had ever stopped in that plaza or anywhere near there other than the place I was going to over and over. So you see how this thing works? It's not necessarily going to put you or give you the place or the desire in the way that you think it will. Oftentimes, it's never the way that you had imagined it, you know. Um, but it always works out for your greater good. or your greatest good. Always. But it's never really necessarily how you had really anticipated it. Okay. And this is what gets a lot of people is that because it's not working out how you think it should, you give up. Like if my friend decided to disappear and I said, "Oh, this was the only way it was going to happen. This was my chance." So since him gone, I'm not going to pursue or persist. I'm just going to wait until he comes back. Like people say, I'm just going to wait on the Lord. The Lord said it's not my time. And that people do this foolishness. The Lord says it's not my time. But you see, this was the way it was supposed to happen. But I still had to be conscious and still have the will to pursue this dream of mine. And so if your why is big enough, then no impediment, no um resentment, no anything is going to stop you from moving forward because you want it too much. You want it too badly. And your persistence is what's going to lead to the know-how. Okay. And so and I had also read in Think and Grow Rich that, persistence, that is the number one thing that you have to have besides courage and discipline. But persistence um, is number one. That's what creates perseverance. You have to be able to persist in your search, in your desire and stuff like that. So I was working with all these different information to make sure that this thing actualized. And as a result, like I said, I found the place that day. I made the call to the number. The guy came and met me around about noon or whatever it was that day, and the rest is history. We came up with and I remember when he when they rented me the place, they only gave it to me for 9 months. They never gave me a longer term. They said we're just gonna do a 9 month lease or whatever. And I think because after 9 months, they normally renew their lease, I guess, in that time, maybe the next month. Where'd it go again? Yeah, because I started in January. So we had met up with them in like November, somewhere around November. I found the place around Black Friday time. And by the time we signed the contract and everything, he said we're only going to do it until September. Then October would be when we will, decide if we're going to renew the lease or whatever. So when I got into that place, I fixed it up. He gave me 9 months. I fixed it up like they gave me 9 years. I completely transformed that place. I didn't go in there thinking, well, it's only 9 months, so I'm going to act as if I'm not going to be here the next 9 months. This might just be a, a one-stop thing, and I may have to take my equipment and find somewhere else. So I'm going to treat it like that. No, I did not. I went into that place and completely revamped it. Paint, I changed the walls, everything, completely repainted the entire shop. I changed the floor, put down new floor, brand new floor. Um, put up my TV on the wall, all these different things, as if I was going to be there for 9 years. Turns out I'm there 11 years now. But at the time when I was doing it, they were like, wait a minute, wow. When they came and they looked at the place and they were like, um, we only gave you a 9 month lease, but you got the place like you're going to be here for much longer than that. You know, like they were questioning why would I go all out when I have no certainty with how it was going to work out after 9 months. Like, they could raise the lease, they can increase the price drastically, or they could desire to rent it to somebody else for whatever reason, right? So why did I do all that without any certainty? But I was working with my higher self. I was working with my superconscious. I did not stay in the just the conscious realm working from that point of view. I was in my higher mind all times. And I still did not even remember I had drew the barbershop. I found it some years later, going through my stuff. And when I looked at when I looked at the shop, because 9 months later they gave me a long-term lease. They gave me 3 more years this time around. And I remember when I added more stuff, added more chairs, I added some different fixtures and stuff like that. I started to fix the place up, added TVs. I added more TVs. I added like mm, about 6 or 7 more TVs, I believe, inside the shop. So I was fixing up the shop the way I had drew on the paper. I didn't even realize it. When I found it and I looked at the thing, I had it wasn't completely exactly the same, but um, I had the exact same on the same side. I drew an office on my paper. The office, it was exactly on the same side, right in the same work area. I had a barrier between me and the clients that I drew. It was exactly, and that's the first thing I saw when I looked through the window, that barrier. And I said, this is it. Because that's what I wanted. I wanted a barrier between me and the waiting area, because in my previous barbershop, they never had that. And so um when I looked at the paper, it was almost exactly how I drew it. I had the TVs, I had 2 TVs in the waiting area at that time, and I had 2 TVs on my drawing. Didn't even realize it. I had, I think I had 3 chairs um on the side that I work on. It's 4 now, but I think at the time I had 3 chairs, and that was there. And on the other side, I had 4 chairs drawn on the paper. So I had a total of 7 chairs. I have 6 chairs, but you might as well say 7 right now, right? So everything, oh, I had drawn it on the paper was almost identical to how the shop turned out. And I was not even working from the paper. I was working just from how I had desired the shop to look, because it was something that I imagined and thought about for a while. And so I was just working on how I had imagined the shop. All the things that I had imagined, I was doing it inside the shop. But I did not remember that I had actually drawn it. How amazing is that? On the paper. Just the other day, I looked at it again, just to really to compare, where the shop is at now from the last time I had seen it. And I'm telling you, it's the shop is a little bit more advanced than the drawing, no, but it's pretty much, you know, identical with the face basins, with the TVs, with all this stuff that's going on with that place now. It's crazy how that stuff came to fruition, but it's all from me accessing my higher mind, the source. And if I wanted to do it the way it is now from the beginning, I didn't have the money, I would have said to myself, it's not possible. But because I bypassed all of that, over time, it got to where it's at now, without me paying attention to not having the money, not having the wisdom, not having uh, the ways and means and this and that, the third. So I was just working from a place of all knowing. Everything is fine. Everything is going to work itself out. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. It's finished. Everything is done. So I was always working from that sense, from that place of awareness when it came to that. And just imagine, guys, if we were always taught to behave like that. From the time we were this tall, knee high, up until now, we would be so powerful because we would have programmed our subconscious mind to to operate the way we desire our life. It would always cooperate. It would say, "Oh, that's exactly how you programmed me to operate." But this is what happens with us right now. We desire something, and we're almost always thinking of the future. We're almost always thinking of the future or the past. We are almost never thinking about the present. What does that mean? Well, presently you might need a car, right? So you're in the present, you think you need a car. But then you go to the future of when you need it. I need it tomorrow. That's the future. I need it next month. I need it next year. I need it as soon as possible. You're always thinking about, the future when something needs to happen. But then here's the next thing that comes up. But how? Because you're in a position where you don't even have the money. You don't have the money. You don't have the means, but it's something that you need. It could be something that you don't even need, something that you desire. You desire to go on a trip to Dubai or Puerto Rico or wherever, right? Maybe to Europe. And the trip is $10,000. You said to yourself, I don't have the money. So how am I going to get it? So what's happening there is, unbeknownst to us, this is our subconscious mind reminding us that we are always questioning how. We're always questioning how something's going to happen. We have programmed our subconscious mind that the first thing we do is desire something, contemplate something, imagine something. The next thing we do is we start to question. And we think we're consciously doing it, but it's not our conscious mind. It is your subconscious mind reminding your conscious mind how you always work or you always think. You're always gonna question, well, how is it gonna happen? And then the problem with that is once you question how it's gonna happen, now you start to inventory the means. You start to think to yourself consciously now, well, I'm working this many hours, I'm working this long and this and the third. I'm not gonna have enough money by that time. And it is true. You're not gonna have the money. So that said, you've now decided, oh, it's not going to happen. Can't happen because I don't, my own means that I'm aware of are sure of will not match up to that desire. So you shut down that desire completely. You shut it down for maybe a later date, and that later date almost never comes. Not realizing that we have a higher self, a higher power, as they would call it as well, that if you bypass all of that questioning, you desire something, and if you are aware of how the conscious mind works and how the subconscious mind is what's running your life based on the programs that you have given it from you were a child. These are not necessarily programs that are running um where I say no, that you've programmed recently with your subconscious. These are not recent programs. These are programs when you were 5, 6, 7 years old, 10 years old, 12, 13, you know, young adult, that you have certain experiences that you've had and you program the subconscious and did not even know. So it doesn't care how old you are. You could be 100 years old and have a desire. It's going to remind you of the time that you desired when you were 15, this one thing, and it never came. And so that program is still running as the possibility of failing to achieve something. And so, but if we just know how the mind really works, if we know, we just bypass all of that stuff and say, you know what? I desire this. You consciously know that you don't have the funds, you don't have the money. You are aware of that, but that does not become something you put energy towards. Because, as they say, energy flows where attention goes. So if you pay attention to that, the lack of having the means or know-how, that is going to be what you empower. More lack, more not knowing how, more hardship, more um, you know, impediments that are going to come. Okay. You do not know that the circumstance may seem fortunate at the time, but you don't know that you may have to lose your way of income right now that you have in order to have a better paying job that's going to facilitate this new desire that you had or that you're having. Sometimes that's what may need to happen. And these are things that happened to me personally, that I desired to buy a house and I completely had no way of achieving it. Like it's not even possible. With the money I was making and the price of the houses, that was never going to happen. Turns out that I had to lose the job and my income doubled, like literally. And 11 months later, I was in a brand new house. 11 months before the brand new house, there was no way it was going to happen. No way. But I wanted it so badly. And at the time, I was practicing what I just told you guys, except I was doing it, what them call dream building. So I was going to these houses every day, whenever possible. If I could go inside, I would go inside the house, touch the door. I would do all these things. I would just stare at the house, just looking at different houses. I learned that some back in 95, no, 96, 97, when I was into network marketing and books that I was reading. So I was practicing dream building. It's the same thing that we're talking about here. It's just a different name. Okay. Same thing I did with the barbershop, where Never says to, um, assume, imagine these things. And so I was implementing what Never taught me and dream building, what I learned from back in 1996. I would go to these places and just act as if, even though, even with cars, I did that with all the cars that I've ever bought were desires of mine. I did not know when or how they were going to happen. And they happened. And they happened that I didn't even realize so them happen. But I remember going to these car dealerships, sitting in the cars, test driving. Sometimes I don't even test drive, but I sit in the car, act like I'm driving, feel the seat, all that stuff. And years later, I buy all these cars. Didn't even realize it. You understand? So with the house, everything was messed up. Credit messed up, no money, all of that. And 11 months later, I still bought the house. How is that possible? Because I was not questioning, oh, it's going to happen. I was acting as if. And I did, and it's not anything that whatever I know now, I didn't know that then. But no higher source and all that type of stuff. It wasn't even that. But you see, you don't need to know all of that stuff for it to work, but it's much better when you do. When you know how your mind works, how consciousness works, it changes everything. But you do it even not knowing. You do it in ignorance. But the problem with that is not knowing, you continue to program your subconscious mind. Even when you achieve something, unknowingly, meaning that, or unconsciously, meaning that you didn't even know what you were doing, but you did enough to get what you got. You will unconsciously program your subconscious mind to even lose the thing that you got. You understand? Because you still don't know that the way you feel, the way you think programs your subconscious, which runs your life. So that's why it's important to know, because you're going to operate from a point of knowledge, a point of knowing. That's why they say knowledge is power. Not the Not the information necessarily, knowledge, but just knowing how something works is power. That's why when you go to a job that asks for experience and you already have the experience, you just fill right in. You're operating from a point of knowledge, of knowing. You're starting over, as they say, with experience. You're starting from the bottom, but you have experience, rather than starting from the bottom as with ignorance and have to learn, you know? So you're 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 better off knowing how your mind works, how consciousness works. And that's what we're doing, coming here every week, once a week to tap into our divinity until we get to the point where it is like, as they say, second nature. You have some people that manifest things just like that because these people are operating from a point of wisdom. You know, they understand the levels of how things work and does not get flustered, frustrated, or worried or concerned with anything, especially in a time like now where you have the economy looking the way it's looking. You know, um, everything has slowed down like molasses. you know, in every department, whether it be real estate, um, e-commerce, commerce, you know, just general jobs or whatever. Everything has slowed down. Government, everything has slowed down. We can see it. A lot of people are worried right now. Instead of doing what they say, shadow work, instead of bypassing all of that stuff and only seeing the rebirth. Right now, it's like winter. Right now, we're in a state where everything is dead. You understand? But the spring always follow winter, always. So stay in the spring. The spring, even like a spring, water spring, is life. Spring is always life. And that spring we're talking about here is your higher self, your superconscious, your collective mind. It's a spring of all that is and all that will ever be exists right there. All the knowledge. It's a knowledge bank. Okay. And the interesting thing is we can access it at all times, anytime. All it requires is what Brian Tracy just said in the video, 30 to 60 minutes, not necessarily per day, at least per week. And per day, like I said, with name, um, um, what that guy, I forgot his name. He's accessing it every day for 2 hours or whatever. Joe Dispenza, every 2 hours. I mean, every day for 2 hours. If that's true, not sure. Um, but that's what he teaches. Joe Dispenza teaches these things. So if we could at least do that once a week, especially in a time like now, you know, that is you go into the silence, go like never say, go into the solitude and quiet down the thoughts and everything else. And once you do that, the super conscious now gets to come in and you activate the super conscious to know speak on your behalf or act on your behalf. You know, you're not acting from your God state, your Christ consciousness, as they would say. Okay, operating from like um in the biblical stories when Christ was asked to heal someone. In the story, he never asks how or is it possible. Him just do it. These are metaphors, not real stories, but metaphors for healing our own selves, in real life. You understand? Um, or fixing our circumstances, our situations, you know. almost instantaneously. And it's not necessarily instantaneously, but it's like going to the instance, being making everything a present tense moment. I am, you know, present tense at all times, living in the I am awareness at all times, you know, and yes, over time, living in that state will create the that moment that you were present in at all times. To be present is to be focused, is to be a spotlight focus, tunnel vision, you know, turn off any distractions, any blinders, all your blinders, and only be aware of the thing in front of you, the thing in front of your imagination that you have assumed is true, is fact, even though your senses deny it. When you're living in that state, you know, this is when you're most powerful, okay? But when you live in a state of concern, worry, and you're not necessarily trying to be like that, guys, but these are subconscious programs, okay? These are subconscious programs that you've had over the years. But you trying to develop, excuse me, you trying to develop a desire that's caused you to, become worried or concerned, and you're not operating from a place of power. You're operating from a place of despair. So you definitely want to practice accessing your superconscious by giving yourself an allotted time. And I'm speaking to the choir or preaching to the choir. Give yourself an allotted time wherein it's a practice and it becomes a routine. And I think after so many times of accessing this source on a repetitive basis, we're going to be able to um, transmute, our life. We're going to be able to transmute our lives into a higher dimension at all times. We're going to be living from from this level rather than from this level. Even though we're on this level, what our state of mind, our state of being is going to always be at a higher in a higher presence, you know. Most of our conscious or awakened state. And that is the problem. In our awakened state, we we are too conscious of issues, circumstances that can go wrong or has gone wrong and stuff like that. When you live in the superconscious mind, when you live in the higher mind, that mind knows everything. And so we can practice accessing it at all times. The all of what we desire, all of what we contemplate, meditate on, or imagine will start to work out so much faster, so much easier than they've ever worked out before, because we are now in a repetitive state, and we're in the subconscious, which is the operator within us, which operates our lives or operates everything we have desired or not, or was afraid of even experiencing anything we're fearful of or whatever. The subconscious is always working it out, um, some way, somehow. Even though it's not something you want to experience, it's still working it out because it's something that you fear. All right. So you definitely want to increase your, what do you call it now? Our activity in accessing the superconscious so we can program our subconscious mind much, much better than we ever had before. Okay. Um, let me see. Let me see. All right. So we got Sir Larry. Yeah, so I see we have a few people who have joined us here. Any any question, indulgence that you guys may have in regards to this new consciousness that we're talking about? Anybody? Any inquiry? I guess not. Okay. Um, yeah, we're almost time for to shut it down and everything, but just wanted to bring us up to speed on on giving ourselves for the coming year, 2026. So we did a lot of, I would say, topics this year to build up our self-awareness, build up our mind than it's ever been before. But I think this coming year is going to be where these seeds that we've planted this year start to pop their heads up, start to flourish and come to fruition. So don't be discouraged if some of our desires have not manifested as of yet, or it's taken a bit longer than we had thought or had hoped and stuff like that. But just be aware that the way that is working out is not what's important. What's important is your persistence. Um, your persistence creates more faith and more um it doesn't know it creates more probability of how something's going to work out because you're being persistent, you know. Because the idea that you are desiring already exists, or else you wouldn't have the desire. So the fact that it exists is speaks volume. Okay, the fact that you think about it speaks volume because you have tapped into the awareness of such thing. You have come to have that feeling of wanting to have that experience, but you're coming to it in a time where you don't have the means and the know-how and stuff like that. But that's fine. You don't need to know how it's going to happen, and you don't have to have the means for it to happen because the greater mind, the greater self, has the means, knows how it's going to happen, is aware of all probabilities or possibilities. You just have to, as I say, show faith, show courage, be persistent, um, you know, and let it take its course. It's like you plant a seed in the ground. You cannot grow the seed. You're the conscious mind planting the seed. You have no power as a conscious mind to grow anything. But the power that you do have is to desire and plant the seed. Okay? So if anything, you have the power to desire. That is your number one power, working from the conscious perspective. And number two, you also have the power to plant it. So it is incumbent upon you to first desire The next thing you need to do is plant it. The problem is what we try to do is before we plant it, we want to know how it is going to happen. It'll be like you wanted to know how the tree is going to grow before you plant it. You know, who does that? We know the tree grows. We've seen how nature works, so we don't question nature. We just do what we already see day in, day out. We plant the seed. Luckily, the sun shines, which is necessary for the tree to grow, and the rain falls, you know. So you're responsible for finding the seed, planting it, and nature is responsible for sunlight and water. And eventually the tree grows. It's the same thing with your desires. Okay. You desire something and then you turn it over to the subconscious, which will take it to your superconscious. Okay. Scripture says it, no one gets to the Father except through me. This is the Christ speaking, your which is the superconscious speaking to you, who is saying no one. He's talking about the conscious mind or the desires. No desires get to the Father except through me. Okay? You take the desire to the Father. The Father, you know, gives you the ways, the means of how it's going to happen. The subconscious finds the ways, the means, on how it's going to happen. And then you consciously have the experience. Interestingly, guys, as we first discussed maybe this week, today, and even last week, that all of what's going on is the superconscious, you know, pretty much playing on all the parts. Everything is still the superconscious. As never would say, everything is still God playing all the parts. God playing the superconscious, the superconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious. You understand? Playing all the parts. It's not three gods or three separate um, beings, or entities or anything like that. It is one being, one entity with these, we call it Trinity. You understand? With the Trinity within itself operating. Okay? It's like a tree that has the roots, the trunk, and the branches. That's the Trinity right there. All right? The root is the beginning where all things has to flow from first. Okay? So the root right there is tapped into, is the source of it all. Then it grows from the root, comes up the trunk, which is in this case the subconscious, the subdivision of the whole. And then from the subdivision, from the trunk, all of a sudden branches start to spread out, which is now is going to produce fruits, okay, to for you to consciously experience, consume. So there you have the Trinity right there again. The root, the branch, the root, the trunk, and the branch, of that one vine coming out of the ground, breaking itself down into three compartments, but produces itself all over again in the form of a fruit to produce more and more of those same trees. So all of what's going on is the superconscious, basically desiring from the very beginning to have all these experiences. But it had to divide itself into these compartments in order for the experience to take place. Okay? But do not mistake it to be that it's three different beings or three different entities or anything like that. It's one consciousness, one collective mind that works from a Trinity point of view. Okay? and breaks down to its lowest form of itself, the conscious mind. The conscious mind only exists for the purpose of intellect, in other words, to speak, to think, to operate the five senses, to see, to hear, to taste, to touch, and to smell. All these different things the conscious mind is responsible for. That's what gives it validity. That's what says, yes, this thing has happened. You are now aware that it has happened. It has always happened. It has always existed because everything is within the superconscious. Everything is there. But the subconscious and the conscious mind, these two are what's really working in unison as husband and wives on the behalf of the superconscious. They're working on the behalf of the superconscious, of the all that there is, in order for the superconscious to experience itself. Okay? In order for us to have electricity in this house, it had to come from the source. But in order for us to experience the source, it had to come to this house. You understand? For us to have electricity, it has to come from the source. But for us to experience the source, or for the source to have an experience away from the plant, it has to come here. This would be like the earth. This is the earth, the house, where the whole, the plant, which is the all that there is, the heaven, so to speak, paradise, so to speak, it has to come here in order to experience what electricity is. Cannot experience what it is from that realm, from that point of view. It has to come to a lower view in order to experience, all that there is. And we do it here with those examples that I just laid out time and time again. But that's actually what's happening with the earth and the higher dimension, which is the all that there is. You understand? The higher mind. That's what's happening with us right here. We are experiencing the all that there is in this dimension, this 3D dimension. But with the help, of all that there is. Everything that comes here is coming from the superconscious. Everything that comes here is coming from the superconscious. But nothing comes here unless we who are here have the desire for it to happen. We don't see a new car, we don't see a new gadget unless someone here desires it. It's not going to fall from the sky. It's not going to grow out of the ground. It has to come from someone here who is imagining or desiring to have these experiences. But it all goes back to one source, and we're just the conduits, the voice, all that stuff. And yet at the same time, we are this source all at the same time. We are the source experiencing itself, and we're the source itself. Okay? But many of us are just not aware of that. We think that the source and us are separate or divided. No, that would be like thinking that your feet, is not part of your body. You understand? It's still part of your body, and you can't get around without it, regardless of what's controlling everything else in terms of your brain. If you don't have any feet, or some mobile device, you can't move around. You understand? And so everything is one, just having different operations, but working as one. And it's the same thing here, no different. We just have to learn that we have the power already within us, not outside of us. It is always with us because the power is who we are. Fundamentally, we are the superconscious. Okay? Fundamentally, what what differs or differentiates that is awareness. We are not aware. We need to take back our power that was taken away from us by degrading us or downgrading us to just being what them say, you are just humans. You are only humans. You know, you are only human. That's what they would say, you know, to take away from you having true awareness that you are the all that there is, you know, having a finite experience of your infinite self. Okay? That's all it is, you know. You're just having what do you call it now? Um a restricted version, you know, of the higher self. Okay? But the restricted version is necessary to experience the higher self. Without this restricted version, there is no way to experience anything that life has offered or has to offer. It's not possible. Can't experience it. Okay? It's like you cannot experience in like the tree version I just mentioned, you cannot experience the tree, what the tree is, except that it be until it bears a fruit, you know? What you're really experiencing is the tree itself, by way of the fruit. Now you get to taste what it's like, you know, and you get to redo it again to have more of the same experience and stuff like that. So, it's all one unit having multiple diverse, interesting um, experiences. But in this exercise, guys, we're talking about here is to tapping into or learn to tap into our higher self by simply, like Brian Tracy said, going into the silence, going to solitude, being alone, being just pure consciousness, pure awareness. This is necessary when we have a desire, we have an issue, a circumstance, whatever it is that we have, you take it to the source by going into solitude, by being silent, by quieting the mind, by giving up, not on yourself, but giving up on doing it yourself. Okay? Um, let your higher mind, your higher self, your greater self, um, take the course and produce the answers, the outcomes, the means on how something is going to be facilitated. All right. We just have to learn that. I know we have, no matter how much we practice, we know we have these subconscious programs that is always present. But if we create more productive subconscious programs, we will overlay these old programs wherein they don't even pop their heads up because the subconscious mind only works with the programs that um is more used or is used most of the time, are the one that you're most aware of. That's how it works. It's only going to give you what you are more inclined to always do. Study yourself, guys. You will see what I'm talking about. Study yourself. We don't consciously run our lives. Our subconscious mind is what runs our life. But they were consciously programmed by our attention that the conscious mind was attending to, or what we were giving our attention to at the time. So that's very interesting, right? The conscious mind programs the subconscious, and then the subconscious runs our life. It is by design. This is the way it has to be, and it will always be like that. Remember, we did a program some weeks ago. Until you make the subconscious conscious, it will run your life, and you will say it is fate, you know? And what that means is you have to make the subconscious, um, you have to be conscious of what you're doing so that your subconscious becomes conscious in the sense that it's only doing what you want, not what you don't want. A lot of what our subconscious does are the things that we don't want. Don't want to be late for work. We don't want to find a job that doesn't pay us our worth. We don't want to argue, with our spouses, or we don't want to argue with our friends, or we don't want to lose on our investments, or all these things that we don't want. We always end up getting them anyways because our subconscious is programmed to direct our lives that way. The only way to get it to change is we have to know consciously program the subconscious with the things that we desire to experience or to fulfill. And one of those was, I'll say it again, and we're going to close, is to write our affirmations, primarily with our left hand. These things are the affirmations are programming your subconscious, but they're also building up the right side of your brain. They're creating neural pathways within the brain that are producing a better receiving reception of the brain and transmission of the brain. It helps the brain to transmit and receive better information in regards to the mind. Okay, better access because that's what your brain is, receptor transmitter. And as you're writing these things, is creating repetition, is creating a, what do you call it now, a routine of your mind, of how you consciously behave. And then your subconscious will take that, record it, and will start to produce the means and the holes and stuff like that in in whatever it is that you wrote down. But it requires persistence, requires consistency, persistency, uh, discipline, all the above, in order for that to become our new paradigm, especially in our coming years. So if we could tell ourselves, condition ourselves, that's a big word right there and very important. Conditioning or recondition, meaning to redo, to undo and redo how we were programmed all the years unconsciously by society, by our environment, by our parents, and even by our own selves, by the things that we pay attention to. Okay? If we can spend from 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 here on out going forward, just the reprogramming of our consciousness, of our subconscious mind primarily, we're going to see a great shift in our life, as time progresses. The next 5-10 years of our lives can be um so powerful, so amazing. And it will have to start from now, from what we're doing, what we've done already, and what we continue to do. you know um so we can see the fruits of our labor. The laboring is in mind, the way we think, the way we imagine, the way we assume, the way we believe, our faith. These are the work. These are the things that we're doing, you know, to see the labor, see the fruits of this labor, down the road. Okay. And not a big factor is to don't look for results or look for signs or look for when anything is going to happen. Just do it. Fall in love with the doing and not the looking. Uh, to exemplify that, I planted three coconut trees, I believe 10, 11 years ago. Might have been 10 years ago. I think 10 years, maybe 2015, I believe. And two of them has grown very tall. I mean, my God, they're probably with the limbs and everything, probably 20 feet, if not taller than that. And but they weren't supposed to be that tall. They were supposed to be some short coconut trees. Anyhow, 10 years and no coconut, them not being a coconut, all no. And I'm like, these trees not gonna be nothing. But over those 10 years, I was not paying attention to the tree. Like, when is it going to bear? It's just that when somebody would say to me, "Oh, you're coconut tree in the beard," I'm gonna say, "Well, I'm not know. I look like it a man, because that's what we say when a tree doesn't bear. It looks like it's a man, because all not in a beer, it probably is not gonna bear." So 3 weeks ago, I am trimming the tree. Imagine that. Trimming the coconut tree. And I just realized that the coconut tree was being coconut. All this time, I would never know. I was not paying attention. I was not looking to see when it was going to bear. When I cut the limbs, because I was pruning it, and I cut off several limbs, and I was like, wait a minute, where did this come from? And I went and looked at the other tree, and it's the same thing. One of them has not done, it hasn't even grown past 6 feet. The soil is bad, so it hasn't grown tall at all. Very, very short. Um, but the other two, where they were planted, proper dirt or whatever, the other one, it has like 20 coconuts on it right now. And I never saw it until I started to trim the leaves because they were hanging down so low. And when I trimmed them and leave the ones that were new up, that's when I saw the coconuts. I couldn't believe it. My wife didn't see it. None of us saw it. And they treat them right up by the front, basically by the front of the house, not paying attention to it. And I liken it to our goals and dreams that they don't manifest because we're always looking for signs, like the Jews, looking for signs as to when it's going to happen, rather than just falling in love with the doing, fall in love with the state, not with the experience, um, or the manifestation of the state. If we fall in love with the state, the manifestation will operate just as that. You know, the year went by so fast because we were too busy doing what we should do or have to do. When you pay attention to time, it slows down and nothing happens. It feels like it's everlasting, you know, wait for time to pass. But when you're just doing what you're doing, time flows by so fast, and you're like, man, the year done already because we have so much to do. So it's the same thing. New Year's coming. We want to see a lot of our stuff come to fruition, but we shouldn't be looking out for when it's going to happen. Just do the work, and you will see it. You know, with as like a thief in the night, it will just come upon you with no warning. Like the coconuts didn't give us any warning whatsoever. All this time, they were always there, but I didn't know it. So, same thing for 2026, guys. All of our dreams and goals and aspirations, things we've imagined, They all already exist. We just have to continue making ourselves more patient, better, think better, imagine wiser, and we're going to have a lot of stories to tell in the coming weeks, months, and many years. All right, so that's it, guys. That was our time. That was our message for today. Activate the superconscious, go into the silence like Never teaches, meditate for at least 30 minutes to an hour, shut down your mind, and then just watch and see what happens in the coming days, weeks, and months, especially if we keep practicing this thing um, as often as we can. All right. So, love you guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And we'll be back again next week to continue this journey of the one great I am who is awakening through us and by all of us, one by one at a time. Love you guys.